Hey everyone, I'm Mitchell Ray, and you're listening to the Real Music Nashville podcast. Just right out of the gate, we have some really exciting news. This Monday will be our first Real Music Nashville Presents series, and what we've done is partnered with the Wilson Brothers, and we'll be hosting a live stream event every other Monday from the Whiskey Bent Saloon. The Wilson Brothers are a really great country duo. They're going to be doing all the booking for this first Real Music Nashville Presents series, so it's going to feature mostly country artists. And like I said, it is going to be a live stream event. I'm probably going to host it on Real Music Nashville's YouTube channel and also our fan site on Facebook. That being said, it's not just a live stream event. They are doing a socially distanced, limited capacity audience. So that's at the Whiskey Bent Saloon. December 21st is the first show, and it starts at 8 and ends at 11. So, I'd really like to see some of you guys out there. All right, now let's talk about today's podcast guest, Andrew Adkins. I got to sit down with him over a Zoom call. It was one of the first Zoom podcasts I did, and I think it turned out really well. Andrew's a really interesting dude, and he's done quite a bit with his time in the music industry. He's had a lot of sync licensing deals and has maybe 5 or 6 albums. His most recent album, The Echoist, is out now on all streaming platforms, and he also recorded 2 acoustic versions of 2 of his songs specifically for the podcast, which was really awesome. He didn't have to do that. So I'll be putting those 2 songs up on the YouTube channel, and I'll put the link in the description so you can find them. If you have an album or a single that's releasing soon and you'd like it featured on the introduction to this podcast, just contact me at realmusicnashville@gmail.com and we can make that happen. All right, let's get into the episode here with Andrew, and we'll transition with a clip of his song, Save the Day, and this is one of the acoustic ones that he recorded specially for our show.
Our leaders so corrupt, society's hit the skids. Who can we trust? Once a right or unjust, we're so controlled by fear. Someone to fight for justice, chase the bad guys away, to watch over and defend us, to keep danger at bay. Every story needs a hero who can save the day.
All right, right on. Thanks for doing this, man. I was really stoked.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Is that like your publicist or someone that was talking to me?
Yeah, I mean, she's kind of, I guess there's not a specific title. She helps me out a lot in the, publicity. She used to do some bookings back when that was a thing.
Right.
And, some album reviews, things like that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, she's a great person, Miko.
Yeah, it's nice to finally see. Well, I almost said in person, but finally nice to meet you.
This is the closest thing I think some of us get to in person these days.
Seems like it. Dude, you've had, I was looking into your career and everything. You've put out like 5 or 6 albums over maybe half a decade, multiple bands. You've had
like that, yeah.
You've had like a very long career and a whole lot of experience in music industry, but you came from Ohio, right?
Yeah, Northwestern Ohio. I was born in a town called Defiance, so I was literally born in Defiance. So yeah, it's been a long time since I've been doing this, but man, when I think back on it, it seems like everything was 5 years ago.
Yeah. So what prompted the move to Nashville? Right, I think I saw on the internet that is right after high school you just like jumped right down to Nashville.
Well, I actually have a cousin that lives in Smyrna.
Okay.
Which is it's south of town for those of you who don't know who's listening. I moved, or my cousin lives there, and at the time my father was retiring from General Motors up in Ohio, and he was thinking about splitting town. I was just graduated, so I was thinking that we were all thinking about splitting town for different purposes and reasons. I was going to hit up Atlanta or Chicago because I was, pretty close to Chicago where I grew up. And of course, that was a happening music scene. I just wanted to get somewhere where there was a big, thriving scene. At the time, I was way too intimidated to go to Los Angeles or New York City.
Yeah.
Nashville, I thought, was just country music, as most people did back then specifically. So
you're not the only person that I've talked to say that. Yeah, it all looks like
country.
It's
funny. Well, it had such a stigma for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
But I came down here, to check it out for like a weekend to visit my cousin. And wow, I fell in love with it. And this was a long time ago. So even more so nowadays, it's just, I mean, I don't know how long you've been in the city, but in the area.
I grew up here.
How long?
I grew up here. So, yeah.
Oh, so you've seen it. I was just going to say if you've been here for 5 or 10 years, but you've definitely seen the growth and the change. I mean, gosh, in the last decade, it's been mind boggling. It's almost like a completely different place. Especially now since the pandemic, I have not been out of the house much, but before I would not go to a place for about 5 months and go back, and it'd be like unrecognizable.
Yeah, there'd be like at least 2 or 3 new hotels and a 32-story
hotels,
building.
condos, restaurants. It's insane.
Yeah,
but yeah, I guess to summarize everything, I just fell in love with the city, and the more I'm here, the more I fall in love with it. Still, it's just an ongoing love story that I have with Nashville, and it's just always, especially nowadays, it's just so encompassing towards music and culture and everything else. So, yeah, I don't foresee myself leaving anytime soon.
Well, that's a good thing. We need all the good musicians we can get down here, even though there seems to be, you can throw a rock and hit a musician in Nashville.
Oh, yeah. When I first came to town, somebody told me, if you're one of 2 people, if not the same, you're a server or a musician, and half the time you're both.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. I mean, I remember growing up in Ohio, like when you'd see a guy walking down the street with a guitar on his back, you're like, wow, that dude plays. It was like a big deal.
Yeah.
It's just like, like you said, you throw a stone and it's like you hit 10 of them here.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just, I like the fact that, most cities you see guys carrying briefcases, and here you see guys carrying guitar cases. It's so cool.
Yeah, they're gonna go do a quick gig on their lunch break from construction.
Yeah, they're gonna play for like a national superstar or something on their lunch break before they go back to their serving gig that night.
Yeah, exactly. So in Nashville, is that where you hooked up with your first? I guess like your first major band. What were the Mellon Down Easy? Yeah,
Mellon Down Easy. It was. I started it here, but my best friend from up north in Ohio, Daryl Wayne Dasher, who's actually a really great country singer around town these days. We started that band. He came down because he had plans on moving to Nashville to be an aspiring country singer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I threw some wrenches in that plan. He ended up joining we started the band together, and we spent, at least a good 7, 8 years on the road. And that was, I didn't go to college, but I had that band, so I'm good.
Well, you went to your own type of college, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. I probably learned more and gotten more trouble in that realm of college than I would have if I went to a regular traditional college.
Yeah. Now, is this the band that, you signed with, Ryan Gosling's record label, what was it?
Werewolf Heart Records.
Yeah,
that was actually the band after. That was Lions for Real.
Okay.
That was kind of an offshoot of Mellon Down Easy, sort of. But yeah, that was a cool, crazy time. That band took off and exploded within like 2 months. And I told you I spent 7 or 8 years on the road with Mellon Down Easy and honing that. And we've actually were signed to Dual Tone Records, which is a record label here in Nashville. But
do you think that
I'm sorry?
Do you think that 7 or 8 years contributed to the quick success of the next band, or was it?
That's what I wonder, because it was a bit weird, because I was used to struggling and just putting in all that, as they say, paying your debts and all that, and we were just hitting the pavement as hard as we could for years. The band broke up, which was a slow dissolve, and then I got together with Lions for Real, and within 2 or 3 months we're like on an airplane headed to Los Angeles.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a weird thing. It was almost like, here's your your prize for spending all that time busking it on the road.
Yeah. It seems like everyone I talk to has this same type of story, but would you mind sharing sort of like the fallout or the bad experience you had with that label? If you don't want to, that's fine. But
No, I don't have a problem at all. Well, up to that point, I always heard the horror stories of, a lot of people don't understand until, you're in that position.
Right.
I myself was even guilty of, like, I've heard stories of like friends being like, we got signed to this label, and, a month before we released the record, the bass player left because he freaked out, or, something. Yeah. You always hear something weird like that. And I went through my life hearing stories like that and thinking, wow, what an idiot, or, or whatever. It's like, how could you have that? And, you work so hard for it, you get it and you lose it. But man, I found myself in that exact same position. The big thing with that label is I wasn't used to having somebody, calling the shots so specifically, to where the point where it started, I guess it started, interfering in the creative process, which
they had one of those guys.
Yeah. Well, see, I've in the past, it's all about compromise. I have no problem compromising.
Yeah.
But when it comes to kind of almost giving your image and your sound and your ideas in a whole other realm of people, and, not just a person, but like a group of people, that kind of tends to be, I guess I remember thinking to myself during when all that was going on, I was thinking, man, I'd just be just as well flipping burgers or, selling clothes at JCPenney or something, because I'm basically doing a job that I didn't sign up for. And I know that might be selfish for me as an artist, but it works for certain people and certain people it doesn't. And I realized in a hard way it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
I was being told what to wear, how short to cut my hair, what jacket goes best with what slack, all these things I had no care about in the world. And they were prioritizing that over the music. Like, oh, that's a great riff, but what about that jacket? You got to get a better jacket here, So it's like, that wasn't for me. So I literally almost quit music. And I remember having thoughts. I don't know why specifically those two realms of a career, but I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to quit music, sell all my guitars and equipment. I'm going to be either a butcher at a grocery store or a postman.
Wow.
So I don't know why those two, but I still haven't crossed them out.
The complete opposite of...
we still may revisit those thoughts.
Yeah, the complete opposite of being a musician. I couldn't imagine...
Right, especially the butcher with your fingers and all that. But I'm good now, though. I mean, it's just I went through that phase where I was just, I was just so burnt out from the process. I nearly gave it up, and I'm so glad I did it, because I don't know what I would do if I did.
Yeah, I have a feeling you would have come back to it anyways. I mean, it seems to be...
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just one of those, I eat and I sleep and I play music. It's just a given, and I can't imagine what I would do without it.
Yeah. So are you currently in a band now, or are you more, because I guess you label yourself as like a singer-songwriter, and the records that came out after that period in your life, is that all you're just solely you, or have you been hooking up with the bands here and there, or how does that
I usually have a live band for shows. Of course things are a little different nowadays. The weird thing about it is I took 2019 completely off the road. I played maybe 5 shows the entire year, and usually those were locally, maybe within 3 or 4 hours away.
I bet you're regretting that now that you...
touring. And I remember I finally said, okay, I'm going to get back at it of December of last year. So I'm coming up almost on a year without ever even playing a show, which is crazy. I think it's the longest I've ever been off stage. But, I've been so busy with studio recordings and writing and all that stuff. I don't miss it as much as I thought I would. So I don't know what the future holds. But I usually keep a band with me. I have guys that, in Nashville, I'm sure you probably know, having a band in Nashville is not unusual to have, your bassist plays with, I don't know, Keith Urban, or your drummer goes on the road with Emmylou Harris or something. So it's like, you very seldom have a group of bands that are just a member of that exclusive group. So, when I can get the guys in my band that I have, I welcome that. But sometimes it's just easier to put an acoustic guitar and go on stage by yourself. So.
I hear you. Okay, so these are, when you do have a band, it's, I I guess, people you have networked with, and you can just call them and be like, hey, and they'll just come stand in?
Yeah, as long as their schedule's usually open, that's
Yeah.
usually how it works. But like I said, going forward, I have no idea what that looks like, from here on out.
So the last 3 albums you've put out, then, that was all as like a solo artist?
Yeah. I
Okay.
just went ahead and holed myself up in my home studio and pretty much did everything, which is fun and it's cool. And I like doing it that way. It's a very therapeutic process.
Yeah.
But I do miss bouncing ideas off of other members. So I think, I don't know if the next record or the one maybe after or whatever, I would like to kind of sort of let go of the reins for a little bit, maybe have somebody produce my record, maybe have, a whole band on there to play with me. It's been a long time since I've done that. So it'd be great to get back into that world again.
Yeah. It'd be nice to have someone to collaborate with, I'm sure.
Yeah, I do miss that from time to time for sure.
Something I really wanted to talk to you about was the sync licensing that you've done. The couple tracks, I'm Indestructible and Fire and Brimstone. One was actually in a movie with Ethan Hawke. That's I'm Indestructible, and then Fire and Brimstone was in a trailer for Tower Records doc. I really wanted you to talk about that because I have a feeling, a lot of musicians from Nashville are going to be listening to this podcast, and maybe if you explain that process a little bit, it could open up a little bit of a lane for people to figure out how to maybe do that themselves. Another revenue source for other musicians here in Nashville.
Well, I will say, for times like these, when the pandemic happened, I was like most musicians. You're wondering what's going to happen, where's the money going to come from. Getting involved in sync and licensing is definitely a good thing to do because, knock on wood, I was incredibly fortunate to have a couple things placed before the pandemic happened. So I was able to kind of get through the pandemic with some of the residuals from those projects. So it's always nice to have that kind of mailbox money to rely on when all else fails. As far as getting into it goes, I had a conversation with somebody not long ago, and it's very similar to, I don't know, it's a very similar thing to being a songwriter in town, a kind of a traditional, in that definition of the traditional Nashville songwriter, as carrying songs around and pitching them to other artists and hoping they would cut it.
Yeah.
It's almost the same process, but just different avenues,
And
it's luck, trial and error. I mean, I've definitely most songwriters pitching their songs to other artists in the sync licensing department, I've had a lot more failures than I've had success for sure. And that goes, I think, I probably, let me see, I think it's 2014. So about 6 years I've been lucky enough to have had success in, that throughout since then. But it's a constant thing of like, for instance, you mentioned Indestructible. Indestructible has been I've been very lucky to have that because that's taken on about 5 or 6 different projects, which is amazing. Unheard. I'm very grateful for that, but I also realize I'm very lucky for that. And that's not going to probably happen again with another song.
Yeah.
But the one thing I noticed though, is like people that like Indestructible or have heard it on a trailer or a TV show, they want another Indestructible. It's just very similar to having a hit song that works. Let me hear another one just like that. So it's kind of, like I said, it's very similar in that regard. Another thing is I'm constantly trying to be relevant when it comes to writing. So it's like, I don't want to be just like the Indestructible guy. I want to, have other things happen with it. And I've been fortunate enough to have a few other songs other than that, but you always want to better that. You always want to push the envelope to have another song that might be as fortunate for you as that. But I guess to answer your question, sorry, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent there.
No, it's perfect.
To answer your question, though, I think it's just like any other realm. You just got to network, get out there, meet people, and have your stuff available. Before anything, I want to stress, and I'm very surprised at so many people that don't have this taken care of. But before you get into the sync licensing department, definitely register your songs with ASCAP or BMI. It's amazing to me how many songwriters I've come across that have no idea how that process works. But there's representatives at each office that will generously help you get signed up and get things rolling. Because I mean, if you don't have your songs registered, you're dead in the water. You know, you'll have no way to collect any revenue or money. So that's definitely the first step.
Yeah, and then obviously copywriting your material.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
So, did you shop that stuff around yourself, or did you have some type of manager or record label that was helping you shop that around?
The cool thing, again, just like the songwriting industry here in town, I started out working with different publishing companies and different sync licensing companies all over the country. I had a couple here in Nashville, one specifically as Washington Street Publishing, rather. It's ran by a lady named Nancy Peacock, who's been very instrumental in getting the ball rolling for me. Beyond that, though, I've worked with companies all over the world since then. But fortunately, about a year ago, I was able to take basically what I built for myself using these companies, and I landed my first deal solo, which was crazy, very intimidating because there's a lot of paperwork and legalities involved. But as long as you don't freak out, you could do it. So I encourage people to do that. Start out giving your stuff to other people, not giving your stuff, but licensing your stuff to other people, having them help you out. And at some point, you'll get to the point where you can pitch it on your own, and then you get more money. Because standard industry split with sync licensing is pretty, to an observer, it sounds very high, but it's actually pretty standard. It's a 50-50 split. Oh, so wow. Like, it's, say if I was to pitch the song, or the publishing company was to pitch one of my songs to, I don't know, a television show. Yeah. The revenue is going to be 50-50, you know, and that, like I said, that's pretty industry standard. Sometimes you can get a 60-40 cut, but yeah, so that's definitely something to prepare yourself for too. Cause at first you're like, wow, that's a lot of money, you know, cause song pluggers get, you know, sometimes 15-20% of your cut. But I mean, like I said, it's a hard room to sort of get into. So if you can use that expertise that these companies have, then it's worth it in the long run, I think. Yeah, you're paying half for their connections, basically, I guess. Exactly. But sometimes that half, I mean, you know, especially if you're broke at that point, if you get half of something, it's better than half of nothing, you know? Oh yeah, it'd be incredible to. But yeah, I also want to stress to people that are getting into the sync license, and I've told a lot of people who's asked me things much like this, stay away from people that are, because you see that so much more and more. I see it every day, getting emails from companies be like, you know, for $15, $20, we can pitch your song to this, blah, blah, blah. It never works. I can't not tell you one person that's ever had luck at that. Yeah. I think it's just a big racket that's going on. So be very leery of those kind of things. It's just kind of like the Spotify guys, like, you know, $30, we'll put your song on our Spotify, 1,000 Spotify playlist. Mm-hmm. No, they won't. It's just a big scam. I hate to sound so negative, but no. I want people, like you said, if people hear this, I want people to be conscious of that, because, you know, it's that old cliche. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like in the music industry, there is a racket in almost every aspect of it. If it's live streaming or live performing or anything, there's little scam artists like that pop up, and, you know, they want a huge percentage for almost no work, and it just doesn't work out usually. Yeah. And it's very, I mean, I cannot imagine, because, you know, Nashville's just like LA in that regard, or New York for that matter. You have so many people that come into town starry-eyed and just willing to do whatever it takes to kind of get their foot in the door. And then you got these kind of predatory people kind of swimming along the bottom, you know, just preying on these innocent people. And, you know, much like me or anybody else that's kind of went to a city to sort of, you know, try their hand at it, you have all your money in your pocket, and, you know, you don't have a lot of expendable income. So it's even more unfortunate if, you know, you take somebody's last dollar, or if they choose to pay you instead of their rent because they think that their career is going to take off a month later. Yeah, it's very disheartening. So I feel for so many people that are taking advantage of that on a daily basis almost. Yeah, well, it's good to get this kind of thing out there. Like I said, this podcast is about trying to help the musicians in Nashville and the artists, and hopefully they can get, you know, just kind of get some experience from your experience, you know? Yeah. I know that's how I learned my best lessons in life is from other people's mistakes. So and I can definitely say I've definitely learned. I've came out ahead on a lot of those aspects, but yeah. And, and if you have any questions, if you're listening to this, reach out to me on social media, man. I'll be more than happy to help give advice or whatever anybody needs.
That's awesome. That's really generous of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, dude, let's talk about your new album that's coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of go over that process. This was a COVID album. You locked yourself in your apartment or something and didn't come out?
Yeah, partially it was. I mean, I had already been working. About this time last year, I started working on it. And I spent about the summer of 2019 writing. And it was a weird thing because I write a lot, but this was like crazy. It was like an open faucet of just song ideas. So I think over the summer of 2019, I wrote upwards of around 80 songs within like 3 months or something crazy.
Wow.
I don't normally work at that pace, but it just happened. And like I said, I took that time off the road. It's hard for me to be one of those guys. I wish I could be one of those guys that could, after their gig, go to their hotel room and kick their guitar up and write a couple songs. I'm so one track minded. I can't write when I'm on the road, and I can't think about shows when I'm in my creative space, so I can't combine those two worlds, unfortunately. But when I took the time off the road, specifically to write and record, I think that was a big part of it. It just like, I thought I don't have to worry about shows. I don't have to worry about traveling. So let's just write. And so I did that and I got it finished.
Yeah. It sounds like it was almost like unkinking a water hose or something.
Yeah, very much so. Very much. That's a good way to put it. So I finished it up at the first of the year, January 2020. And my intentions were to, release it probably by summer. And obviously those things changed. So I was sitting here with when COVID happened in March, I was sitting here with a full album ready to go. But of course, if you're a songwriter or an artist, you know how it is. You can't, with something like this going on, the pandemic, you just can't sit there and watch it. It's just like you're inspired to speak on it or write about it. And then not to mention that, but gosh, all the protests and this year being so politically driven, you just can't turn your television on or open up your phone or whatever without getting just pelted with, bad news and negativity. It's not all bad and negative, but there's so much that is. And so all this stuff started happening and I just started writing again. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to make 2 albums. So I took some of the new songs I was writing at the time that was inspired by the current events. And I basically divvied up. I took all the songs, put them down, and divvied them up into 2 albums. Echoist being one, and then I have another one that I'm kind of finishing up, right now. But I basically finished it and then I unfinished it and then finished it again during the pandemic. So
wow, so you're going to have a lot of material that's pretty much ready to go as soon as they start opening up these venues.
Like I said, it just needs to be kind of edited and mixed and mastered, and it's ready to go. But then again, I'm still writing again, so who's to say if I even want to release that album? It may come out eventually. I don't know if it's going to be the next album per se, but
so it may be a lot like your Colored Parade project, where it sort of sat on the shelf for a long time.
It could be. It just depends. Like I said, I'm constantly wanting to write, and I always want to stay relevant. And I don't know. We'll see how I feel. Let's see how we feel after November, and then we'll take it from there.
So, I mean, is that what happened with the Color Parade project? It was one of these situations where you just had a lot of material coming out at once, and then you just sort of shelved that, and then released
the
it
funny
later?
thing about that was going back to what we were talking about the Lions for Real Hollywood thing that happened. Like I said, I was thinking about quitting. I was so depressed and just in this bad space. So, even though I was thinking of becoming a butcher or a mailman, I still picked up the guitar and wrote. And I just decided I'm just going to record a bunch of songs. And I had no intentions on releasing them. And it was a total therapeutic thing. So, and then matter of fact, Indestructible was part of that batch. The publishing lady, she's like, send me something. She's like, I want to pitch some of your stuff. Just, I think she might've been bored. I don't know. But she was like, just send me something. And I sent her Indestructible, and I was literally going to I thought it was a throwaway song at the time.
Yeah.
And she called me up about a month later and was like, guess what? And she landed on that Ethan Hawke, the trailer for an Ethan Hawke movie called called Cymbeline, which was a few years ago. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I should release this stuff. They've responded this well. So yeah, so it just kind of was like, it was a therapy album that just basically came out.
It's funny how sometimes the tracks that we don't think of anything of, they sort of define you or connect the most with people and stuff. It would just be insane if just think about, how crazy it would be if that just never saw the light of day. And it's,
I know, man. I would have been chopping meat at a grocery store probably. But it was weird because I remember specifically a couple of times I thought, A, this is the worst song on this collection of songs. B, I'm never going to put this out. Who's going to dig this? So I just remember thinking back once and like I said, I don't know, 6 years later and 5 or 6 television show movie trailers later, I can't complain. It's been a very good song to me. And so I always take a second guess now when I start doubting something. So that definitely made a difference.
That's cool. So do you have any plans? I mean, I know most of the venues are shut down and everything, but there are some like socially distanced shows and everything. Have you thought about sort of doing that, or are you just going to stick at home until
I think I'm going to write this out. Because, especially now they're talking of a second wave. I don't know. I just, so much uncertainty right now. But yeah, I guess my first game plan is see how I'm doing January of 2021 and take it from there.
What do you think about people doing live streams? Have you thought about maybe debuting some of your stuff on a live stream?
Yeah, I mean, I've had people approach me about doing it. Of course, at the time when they approached me, I was kind of as I told you, I can't do creative and live at the same time. So I was kind of in my creative space. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely been hit up by people and people that, work with me. They're definitely advising me to do more, virtual things. Obviously I got a record to promote, so I need to do as much of that as possible. So yeah, I haven't ruled it out. I just haven't, I don't know. I want to do something. If I do it, I want to do something a little different that sets me apart from just, strumming my acoustic on a camera.
Right.
So yeah, I'm working on some ideas. Like I said, I think that goes back to the January thing too, and then plus how the album was initially received. So yeah, I think if people want me to play, then I definitely will.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen some pretty interesting things that artists have been doing with the live stream stuff. But I've also seen some stuff where it's just like sort of cringy and crash and burned,
Yeah, I've seen a few of those, which is unfortunate because I know, everybody does the best that they can with what they have.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some who are just like, it's just like that kind of nails on a chalkboard sort of thing. But the cool thing about technology though is like, even since the pandemic, companies are still evolving on what they're making for people, the consumers, just to, different microphones and interfaces and all that. So it's cool. It's a whole evolution. And I think that's the cool thing about the live streaming things. It was very not thought of before COVID and all this. And I think it'll never go away. I think it'll always be a part of, even when live music gets back to normal, I think the live streaming will always be some sort of a secondary market, I feel.
Yeah, I think it's here to stay for sure. And like you said, I had never even thought about a live stream.
Yeah, me either. It was just so weird because it's such a practical thing.
Yeah.
And I never thought, wait, if I sit on my phone, I can reach all over the world, perform in their living room. Yeah, it's weird. It's just something like out of necessity. It's just, there it is.
I was first exposed to it on Reddit with their RPAN or whatever it's called, their live public access network. And I was like, what is this live stream thing? I went through a huge rabbit hole with all of that. And, and now I have like 5 cameras.
Yeah, it's cool. I used to get into, are you a fan of the Jam in the Van?
I don't know what that is.
Oh man, you should check it out. It's, these guys, out of, Los Angeles. I'm not sure if it's Los Angeles, somewhere in Orange County, maybe. But anyway, really cool guys, about 3 or 4 of them. I think that's what it used to be. They've been growing, so they might be more people now. But they first started taking like a gutted camper, and it's just fitted with a drum set and like basically like a little recording studio, just crammed down into a box. And they would have not Zoom, but GoPros, the GoPro cameras.
Yeah,
they would have like 10 of them scattered throughout the trailer or the camper, and they would go to music festivals like Coachella, and then eventually started making their way to South by Southwest. And they would just set up in a parking lot and just tape random artists, songwriters, bands. And then they had a sponsorship with like different beer companies. So like they were managing to make money, but they started getting bigger and bigger. And last year's Americana Fest, they actually made it to Nashville. So they're getting national now, and
so
really cool. So
is this like
jamandthevan.com is really cool. They perform, like they have artists come in and do 2 to 3 songs. And
sorry, say it one more time. I think I talked over it. Jam and what?
No, it's cool. Jamandthevan.com.
Okay. And is this like a podcast, or is it like a sort of like maybe a little mini series or something? Or
yeah, it's they do. I don't think I mean, if they do interviews, it's very brief. It might be more introduction than an actual interview. But yeah, it's just like a 2 or 3 showcase, performance of different artists. A lot of cool people's been on there. A lot of cool people's done it. I was actually going to do it a couple years ago at South by Southwest, but I don't remember what happened. It didn't line up. But yeah, hopefully that might be something soon on the agenda once things get back to normal.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I'll check that out for sure. So when's your album coming out? The one that's definitely coming out?
November 13th.
November 13th. Okay.
Yeah, they actually they wanted to release it the week before, which is like what, the 6th or whatever.
I don't know.
Whatever it is. But the week before, the election's on the 3rd, and I thought, I do not want to put an album. I'm lucky. I didn't even want to put an album out at all until like December.
Yeah.
But yeah, I delayed it, put it off for an extra week after the election because it's a crazy time. I don't know what the state of the world's going to look like then. I mean, it's bad enough. Imagine what we're going through now. So yeah. So it's coming out the week after the election. So that's something to, if you need a release, look there maybe.
Yeah, I think we all might after this one.
Yeah, you never know what's the future holds.
Well, Andrew, man, it was a pleasure having you on. I really appreciate you doing this show.
Oh, absolutely, man. Thank you.
And I think, the knowledge you dropped on us with the sync licensing and everything could really help some people around town.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and plug anything else you got going on, and maybe, go ahead and plug that album again real quick, the release date. And yeah, I'm just really grateful that you came on.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate you having me. Yeah, my new album, The Echoist, it's coming out November 13th, the week after the elections. And I have a few singles out right now on all the streaming platforms. You can find them on Spotify or Apple Music and the rest. Yeah, go check them out, save them. You can follow me on social media. You can find all my social media links at andrewadkins.net. That's Adkins with a D, Adkins. So yeah, I'd love for you to check out my music, and thank you all for listening.
Awesome, man. And yeah, let me know after all this stuff is over, next time you play live. I definitely want to come out.
Absolutely, man. I definitely want to stay in touch. All
right. I appreciate it, Andrew. It's been Andrew Adkins on the podcast. So thanks again.
Have a good night, man.
All right. See you, bud. And that is the episode with Andrew Adkins. Don't forget to check out his album, The Echoist, out now on all streaming platforms. And I just wanted to remind you guys again, the Real Music Nashville Presents series at the Whiskey Bent Saloon starts December 21st. And I really hope to see you guys out there. It starts at 8, ends at 11, socially distanced, so bring a mask. And we'll end today's episode with an acoustic version of Vagabond Shoes that Andrew recorded specially for the podcast.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hello, old friend. I haven't seen your face in so long. How's life been treating you? Can you believe all the time that's gone? I need a connection. I need a new sense of direction. I want to laugh and feel like I'm alive. I've been walking backwards. I've been speaking in echoes. I've been speaking in echoes to myself. Locked inside, where the shadows are like a light. Is there anyone out there? Got these isolation blues in these vagabond shoes. right, this verse is about the Nashville tornado 2020. Now I don't trust the rain no more. It took away everything. Well, that big wind came and tore out my front door. Now I'm not the kind of man to break down, but before I could rebuild, they came and locked down my whole town. We're all walking backwards, we're all speaking in tongues. If you breathe in the air, you're gonna poison your lungs. There's fear all around and everyone's shaking, locked inside where the shadows are like a light. Is there anyone out there? These isolation blues and these vagabond shoes are going nowhere. Na 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 na. Nothing that we can foresee or plan. Everything is getting out of hand. It's like the most chaotic bad dream I've ever seen. I need a connection. I need a new sense of direction. I wanna laugh and feel like I'm alive. I've been walking backwards. I've been speaking in echoes. I've been speaking in echoes to myself. Locked inside where the shadows are like a light. Is there anyone out there? Got these isolation